talking to a closed mic. Hey, hey, hey. I'll admit Jared. And then Matt, you're on mute. He said perfect.
I did say perfect. I'll just say that way the whole time.
All right. Are we doing the, you want me to share it?
Yeah,
what?
you're
what?
all to the
To the
make,
audience.
and then I won't be able to see when people pop in, Jared, so you'll have to let them in.
Oh, I can see him. That's weird. I can see him.
Well, I give Jared my host.
Oh, well, I can let him in. That way he doesn't have to mess with it, but we're not ready to let him in anyway.
Yeah.
Looks like there's 4 people in the meeting room right now. Oops. I closed that. Now how do I see it? There we go. Oh, wow. 8. So, well, 4 people plus the 4 in there. Okay. And then today we're talking about, review that, building your power team and strategic partnerships.
Nice. You ask the questions, baby. You set them up.
All right. You knock them down. Got Captain Ahab on the line today.
Should have brought my hat.
Mm-hmm.
How do
Exactly. I guess it's 1 o'clock. Let's rock and roll.
Hey, how do I mute my Facebook, Leah, or my page?
Oh, when it's up at the top tab where the tab is, just do mute tab.
I don't know where that is.
Let the window open. It's literally up towards the top.
Got it. I got it. We're good.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to let people in. We got four coming to play. Middle. Boom. There they go.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. We'll start to let people in here. Today we're going over an exciting one, collaboration and partnerships. There's a ton of partnerships that you can have in this field, and we'll go over a lot of them today.
Yes. So welcome. Today we are talking about building your power team and strategic partnerships. I think one of the aha moments for me has that's been so important was that, and they say this, but it's truly true. You'd never do anything alone, right? There's never, I mean, especially anything of significance, and especially not in real estate. You have to have real estate partners, and sometimes those are teams and strategic partnerships. Sometimes those are partners, and sometimes it's vendors, right? Banks and contractors and attorneys and accountants, and sometimes I haven't sometimes valued as much as I should have, like accountants early on in the process or attorneys early on in the process, and later I was like, wow, that would have saved me a lot of time and money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about that. And then, of course, as usual, we'll answer any questions. So as we get into the questions, certainly anything about building strategic alliances or in your world. And a big part of that's also called scaling. If you want to start to scale, you have to have good strategic alliances. But then also feel free, any deals that you want us to look at, any deals you want us to analyze, we'll be happy to, or give you input on, we'll always happy to do that. That makes it fun as well.
Yep.
So, Jared, when we look at building your real estate team, I guess, what's that mean to you from a flipping or either fix and rent, fix and flip? But what's that mean to you when I say the words build your power team?
Right. That's a good question. And welcome everybody again. For me, I look at it from a couple different perspectives. Who can help me find the properties? Who can help me rehab the properties? And what's my disposition team look like? So, from a find the properties aspect, that's kind of like everybody's. I mean, I get so many questions on where can I find properties? How do you source deals? And man, this is a powerful team that, I mean, you've got to have on board, because this is a competition going out and finding these properties, Matt. So, I mean, real estate agents. I mean, that's a huge source. I mean, I've been a real estate broker a long time, but I still lean on a lot of real estate agents to bring me deals. I'm not so much in it for the commission. I want the deals. And so, if you're not an agent, source a lot of real estate agents. If you are a real estate agent, still source a lot of real estate agents, leverage those. That's one aspect of that acquisition team. Wholesalers, really important piece. I mean, Get to know these guys and gals. Don't just get on their list. You definitely want to be on their buyers list, but you want to stand out to them. Take them out to lunch, take them out to a coffee, meet with them, help understand what their goals are, let them understand what your goals are, and that you're just a good person, that you're going to be a closer, um, and try to build relationships with those, because I guarantee you can build relationships with the wholesalers that will work in your favor. And if you help them achieve the goals that they want to achieve, um, and other places that could be on your team, um, or other people, pretty much if you look at like a bullseye, you have your inner circle. This is the people that no matter what happens, they're going to refer you if they hear about a house that's for sale. Your brother, your sister, your spouse, your best friends. They're going to be your go-to referral people. The next layer out, the kind of one-offs, people that know you know them. You may not be friends or like family or best friends. Um, but you do business with these people a lot, or you interact with them a lot. Could be your hairdresser, your accountant, your attorney, um, you know, the person that gives your dog a haircut. I mean, there's so many people out there, but if you don't tell them and invite them to be into your team, they're not going to ask. They don't know. So you got to tell them what your goals are and invite them to be on your team and how they can help you. And I found people generally want to help other people. Um, but you got to invite them into your team. Um, and then the outer ring, you can look at it like people that you don't know yet. You know, these are people that you don't know, but you should be constantly trying to bring people into your team. And what does that look like? And you want to continue to push these people towards the center. You got to push them to the center. Make these people in your middle ring. How do you get these people to be best friends so that they will, you know, you don't want to use people, right? You want to generally care about them, but you want to send you more deals and you want them to be like their good go-to referral source. Sorry. So that being said, you got to provide value to people inside of your team. We can't just ask, ask, ask. Got to be willing to give. So what are we doing to help these other people? Um, and a lot of times, if they're business owners, it's just a trade back and forth referral. So that's a good way. So that's kind of the acquisition piece that I look at. Um, from
And Jared, as we look at that piece, I think, I think we're going to take this kind of in sections, but like you're about ready to do, I was looking at some of the notes we've got here, and one of the things that I looked at was like where do you find some of your team members, right? And that's a very important piece too. And I know from my own experience, it's literally like going to local meetups,
right.
going to real estate events, going to investor events, going to landlord. If you're in the landlord, they have landlord meetups. They
Yep.
have landlord associations. So you can meet a lot of potential team members at networking functions. And then also, a lot of times at those networking functions, and I think we're kind of moving into this next, you also find people that are, you might partner with,
Right.
wholesalers, realtor. I mean, so you're kind of able to vet the people that you want to do business with when you go to some of these social network things. And we just had an example too long ago where I went to a social network thing for real estate, and sure enough, I ended up with somebody who we ended up doing business with, and it was significant for them and significant for us. We were able to do a loan for them, the DSCR loan. It was very significant for them, and it was
Right.
good for our company as well. And had I not gone to that event, we would have never been able to help each other. So, so that was in a way of, it was great for everybody involved in that process. So, and I think also we have to get sometimes out of our minds that we're competing
Right.
and look at it and say, well, sort of. I mean, yes, if it comes down to one house, we may be competing who gets it. But when you look at it at an industry, we really have to cooperate more than we do compete.
Yep.
If we really want to be successful, most of the really highly successful people in real estate have figured out a way to cooperate or joint venture or partner with other people in the space. And I think that's where we're going next, is kind of sourcing and managing key partnerships. And you've already mentioned wholesalers. We haven't talked about joint venture partners yet, but another one I see on here that's interesting is property managers.
Yeah, that's a great one. That
And
is a
it's one I never even thought of. And I've been doing this a long time. I was like, you know what? I have never ever once approached a property manager to find rentals or to look for flips.
Yeah, neither have I. Neither have I.
Right.
That's a that is a great point. I mean, the people that well, they're interacting with people
Yeah.
that have houses,
Right.
and a lot of times these people um as landlords age, they're going to want to get rid of their rentals, right? They want to
Mhm.
sell them. So they may be having conversations with those property managers. And the property managers' goals are they don't want to lose all the houses they manage. So that,
Right.
they can find somebody to step in and buy them and manage them. It's a win-win.
Hmm.
So that type of strategic relationship is huge.
Hmm.
And the joint venture, you talk
Hmm.
about that. That is something that I don't see a lot of people really utilizing.
Right.
Um, you know, you can do you can just do so much more when you have some partnerships in place. And yeah, maybe they are competing with you on other deals, but what would happen if you come together? And I've done a couple of these deals. I've had one not so great one, and I've had several that it went really, really good. I think the expectations that you set up front and having really clear communication is huge. With anybody on the team, whether you're your acquisition, a strategic partner, um, contractors, disposition team, no matter who it is, that expectations and communication is going to be the lifeblood of that relationship. But yeah, I mean, for joint ventures, this could look like, I mean, maybe it's a maybe it's a contractor that you bring into the deal, right?
Mhm.
The numbers may be a little snug or something. And you bring them into the deal and say, hey, do the work, manage this. I can help get the capital, and then we'll split the profits somehow. Um, it could be another flipper, maybe less experienced than you. They have the deal, but they don't want to give it up. So
Mhm.
you go in there and you help them learn and you help manage it, and you get a percentage of the deal for that. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a deal that you may have not got otherwise. So um, there's a lot of ways to do that. Even partnering on buy-in holds. A lot of people don't think about that either, but somebody may have a portfolio of properties. And I mean, I'm talking with somebody right now. They've got 23 properties that they have a lead on. They don't want to give them up, but they don't know how to execute it. And so we talked last night about, hey, what if we went in partnership? I can help you execute these. And we just do partnerships on them. I don't
Mhm.
need to necessarily own everything. If I have little bits and pieces, eventually that adds up.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. And so, and feel free if anybody has like a question or something that just pops in your head, just if you want to just type it in the chat and we'll kind of answer them live time as we're going through here. So yeah, we've talked about joint ventures, wholesalers, potentially property managers and other people that touch property. I mean, title companies are a good source for that. Do you have a title company that you've been with? Because more than likely, even though you may have different title companies, at any one given time that you're closing with, typically I've always gravitated to one that was my go-to
Right.
because you want to be able to call them, you want to be able to have them pull a title search fast if you're trying to get something under contract or you're trying to do a deal quickly. You need to know, is there any outstanding liens? Is there any outstanding anything on judgments on that property that would slow the process down to get you to closing quickly? But I think like banks, right? You got to have some type of financial, unless you just have cash.
Right.
You got to have some type of financial partnership or some type of, and typically more than one usually. I mean, you have your go-to and then a backup.
Yep.
You've got to look at title, insurance, like who's your primary insurance go to. And I would even just have an Excel spreadsheet and think of all the people that you need on your team and then just start interviewing, right? And by interviewing, just start talking to them and seeing what they can do and not do. Because some may be a little higher, but they can get stuff done quickly, and some may be cheaper, but it takes longer. And you got to decide what's the right, just like any partnership, you got to decide what's the right fit.
Right. Yep. Yep. And I think, yeah, just asking questions, what does that look like for them? What does that look like for us?
Mhm.
And really just understanding your goals and making sure everybody's goals align. Because you can align everybody's goals, man,
Yep.
it's a powerful thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you kind of talked about moving them from this outer circle to this inner circle. And I've seen that happen with insurance agents before. Like if you have a really good insurance agent that you love and you're using them a lot, they know other people who have property that's insured. They know other landlords, and they can say, hey, you might want to take this person to lunch because I think they're tired of owning property, or maybe they want to expand, and the two of you can work together to expand. So, and again, I think what Jared said is critically important. You have to have clear defined goals and a clear defined partnership. You don't want to just kind of willy-nilly go into these deals, but almost every deal I've ever done has involved partners one way or another, financial partners.
Yeah.
And I would say the high 90 percentile, 95% of those went great, or went really well. And then you have, some deals that just don't go as well. But the nice thing about a lot of the joint ventures we're talking about are they're pretty deal specific. So you don't have to be partners forever. You can partner on a couple deals and kind of date, and then you can say, oh, this works for us, or it doesn't. If it doesn't, okay, great. You move on, because that either, typically if you're flipping, that transaction is completed and you didn't work on that, go see if it works another way. And as you were talking about contractor, the bulk of the flipping I did was because a contractor came to me and said, hey, I know you have a real estate background. I know you're pretty good at financing stuff. If I bring the deals, will you finance them, and we'll split the profit 50-50? So for about 4 or 5 years, we did, I don't know, 100 houses in about 5 years. And it was all based on the fact that, he didn't have the financial background that I did, and I didn't have the contracting background he did. So it worked perfect for us because we were both able to use our talents, and we both made more money and did more deals because we were both able to use our talents. And so it was perfect for both of us.
Matt, can you talk a little bit about that structure and how that worked as far as putting both of your names on title, or
in this case, we didn't have both of our names in title. What I did was, since I put up all the money, right? So in combination with the bank, I would put up the 20% equity. The bank would put up 80% equity. This is a little bit, again, this has been about a decade ago, so there wasn't some of the cool stuff there is in the market now with hard money lending and private money lending and DS. None of that existed, really, at least the current form it does back then. So basically, I was putting up 20%. The bank was loaning me 80%. So I actually held those in my name, and then I did all the accounting. That was the other thing that I was strong on, it that he wasn't. So I would do all the accounting on it, and then at the end of the project, we would just split the profits 50-50. So in essence, he became like a 1099 contractor at that point. But easily could we have, and I think towards the end we did form an LLC and started to put stuff inside that one LLC because there was some benefits to that. But ultimately you can do, and so you could have either of those, right? If you're the money and you're going to work with a contractor, you could run it that way, or you could say, yeah, let's just form this single, this LLC that's like a single entity LLC, and all it's going to do is hold the property until we flip it. And then at some point, if we're no longer partners, we just shut the LLC down. So you could do it that way as well. And you want things in writing, right? So, with that contractor specifically, we put it in writing. And we didn't have it, honestly, we didn't have an attorney review it. Probably would have been smarter. And it worked. And we became friends through that process as well, but we just had a one pager, and it was like, here's how we're going to do things, and here's how things are going to be divided, and here's who's responsible for what. And then we would meet, in that case, we would meet for about 3 hours every Wednesday morning. We'd meet from like 9 to noon every Wednesday, and we would just have a business meeting. We'd review the properties we had, and where are we at with them, and what are we looking to acquire, and let's look at some comps. And so it worked, and then he could spend the rest of the week out doing what he needed to do. I could spend the rest of the week doing what I needed to do, but it was just super efficient. Yeah,
that's great. It's funny because I'm pretty sure that I was wholesaling guys a bunch of houses back.
You were. We bought some. I'm still mad at you about one of them. I'm holding that kind of deep down inside. No, yeah, I'm not. You did wholesale one, and I don't think we got to it towards the end. We were flipping 15 to 20 at any one time, and it just got to be too much. And so we had one that sat for like a year and a half, and we never did anything to it. It was like a $45,000 house. I think we ended up losing 15 grand on that deal, but had nothing to do with how do we fix it and sold it, or fix it and run it. It would have been fine. We just let it sit there. The taxes and the insurance and the finance charges ate it alive. And then I think we auctioned it, and it was not good. But thank you, Jared.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. Um,
And so,
you
yes,
know,
you were in that scenario, though, you were an outside partner that we didn't do a good job of cultivating that relationship. We took that, probably took that for granted because you were wholesaling to different people like us. And so, if I had it to do again, like we're talking about here, I would have called you and said, "Hey, we bought a house or two from you. Let's go grab lunch, or let's go to dinner, and let's see if maybe so you understand what I buy and I understand what you're trying to sell, and then maybe I get a little bit better rate on some of this stuff, but you get more volume. You know that when you come to me with this buy box stuff, I'm gonna buy it. And I bought some other stuff from another guy there in town that everybody on the call would know. It was very successful now or in the space, and he and I just had an arrangement. I would buy his stuff wholesale, and it was basically I think we were somewhere between 5 and 10,000 a deal. So it was like, and it was just on the up. It was right on the settlement saying I was like, I'll pay 5 grand over for whatever you find.
yep.
And so I think I bought five or six deals from him, just one pretty much right after another, and just negotiated out a wholesale rate. And
Mhm.
I felt better about it. And then he didn't have to we didn't have to negotiate, right? It sped up. You want to reduce friction in deals, and so it reduced the friction because there was no negotiation. Could he have gotten more from somebody else once or twice? Maybe.
Hmm.
But then does he have to hold it longer? He's got to take the risk. I took all the risk out of it. I was like, bring me deals, and as long as they're in this buy box, yeah, I got no problem paying you 5 grand. And if it's a great deal, I'll pay you 10. I mean, as long as I have my spread, kind of what we talked about, that 70%, I want to be in it 70% back my cost. Then if you get a great deal, that's okay. As long as I
Yep.
still get my 70%, that's what I'm really concerned about.
Right. And I'll probably butcher this saying, but it's like if you want to go faster, do it alone. If you want to go
Mhm.
further, find
Mhm.
partners. Um,
Yeah, you
and
butchered it, but we got the gist of it.
yeah, I did, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I'm like guilty of this because if I find like something I want to do, I'm like just go, 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 go. Like I want to just attack it, right? And sometimes though it's like a sprint, right? You're going super fast, but you can't sustain it very long.
Mhm.
So it's like, you're in a marathon, you pace yourself and you just keep going and going and going and going and going. A friend of mine used to always equate this back to the book, The Tortoise and the Hare. Matter of fact, he even mailed me a copy of that book one time and said, read this,
Mhm.
and be the tortoise, go slow, steady, and uh,
Mhm.
just you can do it. It is extremely satisfying too when you have somebody that you're friends with or that you become friends with
Mhm.
that you can share the wins with, you can share the losses with, um, because it won't always be just rainbows and sunshine, you know.
Mhm.
But if you have somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and challenge ideas, really, really powerful.
Yep.
Um,
I
so
I agree with that 100%. And like I said, everything I've done, I think since the beginning of time, as far as in the business world, has almost always involved partners either in the beginning or at some stage. I've even taken stuff that I owned individually and rolled into partnerships because I just found the partnership was a better, I've got that Elevate office building over at 13th and Ridge that I had owned forever. And at some point, it made sense for me to bring partners in. So even though I could have just continued to own it myself, I was like, well, but if I bring partners in, then we can go look and start acquiring other buildings because now we have more resources. And I think we went from that one building and then half of another to I think we own 10 or 11 buildings together now over the course of 3 years, 2 years, over the course of 2 years. So I went from owning in two buildings to owning in 11 buildings because I decided that the partnership was a better vehicle. And so even though I own less, I own 25% of that partnership, but I own, two and a
you
half,
you own a lot
a
more though.
lot more. Yeah, my net worth is up definitely and I was able to actually take some money off the table because I'd owned the building a long time. So
Right.
the partnerships, yeah, you don't always have to exit a deal to make money on it. And partnerships, it again, getting the right partners, but you know, people that have performed in the past, that have performed in the past, that you have trusted in the past, usually is a good place to start.
Yep.
100%. And then Stefan does have a
Yeah.
question.
What's this question?
Yeah.
On the partner with the contractor, were you
Uh-huh.
paying him along the way, or did he get paid only after the project was done
That's a
when you
great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So in the beginning, it was just a straight up 50-50 split. And then at some point, I realized that that was inequitable, meaning he was doing more work than I was, because I was spending 3 hours a week and he was spending 30 hours a week or more, maybe 40 hours a week. So we did start to build in a contractor fee for managing the process because he was sourcing the deals. He was sourcing the deals. He was contracting the deal and he was dealing with the disposition. So, and he had like 3 crews he was running. So I think we ended up at maybe, I want to say, I think by the end, maybe 5,000 a house. So we were allocating 5,000 a house for the basically the contracted services. And then we did the 50-50 split after that. So that way he was making money kind of to be the contractor. And it made, and I even think I may have brought it up, but it was just to the point of, yeah, it's got to be fair and equitable, right?
Right.
It's not about, it's always got to be 50-50. It's like, what's fair and equitable? In that case, it was more fair that he got something for his time that I was not putting in. But that's a great
usually,
question.
and usually contractors, would you say they're charging like 35% to 25% just with labor?
Yeah, for profit or whatever. Yeah, and in this case, there was none of that. So that's why it didn't make sense anymore because, everything was it was basically, here's how much he would basically provide a sheet. Here's how much I'm paying the crews. Here's, materials costs. I mean, he was good at keeping track of all that. But yeah, then since there wasn't any margin and I was making money kind of on what the contractor would have paid, I was like, no, we got to figure out you need to make something for being the contractor because we would have paid somebody else to be the contractor. And I was probably still getting a better deal because, we're only paying 5,000 per deal versus maybe 7,500 or 10,000 because the contractor needed to have more of their margin in the deal, but because they were making profit, again, it was a balance because we both won. So he was making more as a contractor per project, and I was making, more than I would have if I didn't get to do the deal. So yeah, it was
And
I,
your
mhm.
and your funding was paying for the material.
My
Me.
funding was paying, well, I was paying for everything. Yeah. Even the 5,000, right? Because we just built it into the project costs. Yeah. So if we were doing as an example, if, we were buying it for 70 and putting 30 in it, including the 5 grand, I was borrowing 80,000 from the bank and I was putting in 20 to get us to the 100. And then let's say we made 20 total. So at the end, when we settled up, he got 10 and I got 10. So I made basically 50% on my money, right? If I'm just looking at return on capital.
Hmm.
But then there's always the intrinsic thing with partnerships. Um, the intrinsic thing with partnerships is what Jared talked about a little bit ago, which is you get to share the wins and the losses, but you also get perspective. And in
Yep.
the middle of a deal, perspective is everything, right?
Mhm.
So when you're buying a deal, acquiring it, like we didn't acquire a deal unless we sat down and talked about it. And then, because then he got the opportunity to say, here's what I see. Now, Matt, with at that point, probably 15 years worth or 15 to 20 years worth of real estate transactions in my belt. What do you see? And I'd be like, well, what about this or what about that? Or, so we were able to bounce stuff off of each other and say, okay, ultimately, yeah, if it passes those 2 people who have experience and it passes all of their filters, then it's probably a good deal. And if we have any question about and we passed on deals because of that, right? And so he didn't end up losing some money on some deals, nor either did I, because we were able to mitigate some of those risks through shared experience. So, and a lot of times you just can't put a number on that. In fact, I think the more successful you become, the better you get at navigating partnerships and utilizing partnerships, even if they're not necessarily ownership partnerships, because you realize that it's much faster to learn from others' wisdom than it is to have to go learn it yourself. And in our world at Kingdom Capital, we're reading the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. And there's a reason we're reading the book Who Not How, which is all about looking around for people that know more than we do so that we can learn faster and go further
Yep.
versus us having to learn everything. It's going to slow the whole process down. Jamie Davis says she loves that book. I do too. This is the second time I've read it.
Yep. Yep.
It's a simple book, but very profound in its application.
Absolutely.
So Jared, now, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
Okay. So now let's look at ensuring accountability and quality control. So, and this is I'm, more in alignment with like vendor management, contract management, strategies for handling conflict. So, and then one of the things here is like a case study, a brief description of a successful team management. So, you've, with the teams you have and the people you have, kind of, how do you keep track of all that, right? How do you make sure people are accountable and getting stuff done?
Right, right. Well, I think, it's just it kind of takes me back when I had my real estate team. Um, at any time, and we had 20, 30 agents at any time, and a few admin staff and director of operations. I mean, and so there's a lot of moving parts there. Um, and you want everybody, ideally, we want everybody to be successful, and we want to elevate everybody to the level you push them, right, but you got to make sure they're on board to be pushed, and you got to make sure people are um, willing to be held accountable. Sometimes accountability, from what I've seen, it's almost like a myth. It's if people don't want to be held accountable, then they're not going to be, and those are not people that you want on the team. People that you want on the team are people that they almost yearn for accountability. They appreciate if you be like, hey, you said, you were going to make 30 phone calls yesterday, and you made 15. What got in the way? You know, Somebody's defense there versus, hey, you're right, I did it. This is what happened. How can you help me? Versus just a ton of excuses. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. Um, and so setting those expectations up and just having, I mean, it's like a broken record. Just having super, super good communication and write things down. You mentioned that earlier with your, partnership agreements. Write it down. Get everybody's buy-in on whatever this is, and write it down. That way, writing that down does a couple things. Number one, it just makes sure everybody's on the same page, and it gives you a reference back where you don't have to like really keep things, when you have a ton of staff or a ton of partners, it's tough to keep everything straight. And to have regular meetings with them, then you can just pull this out and say, hey, where are we out with this, right? And when I say we, like I truly mean we. It's not a them issue. It's a we issue at that point. What am I doing to help you achieve those goals and to help you maintain that level of accountability? And how do I need to show up in order to hold you accountable for that? Because everybody receives that accountability differently. And so you really got to know, who you're dealing with a little bit, and the timing of that. The timing is super important. If somebody's having a bad day, it's probably not the best day to go in there and say, hey, you didn't hit your numbers, right? Or whatever it is, right? Because life happens with people. Everybody does. And so, I mean, even now, we have regular meetings inside Kingdom Capital. We have regular meetings, one every single day of the week. And each day of the week, Monday's marketing, Tuesday's investors. It just keeps going. So we have different focus days that we focus on, and we talk about that. And we've had some systems put in place that we use technology um, in order to help us manage that, and just almost checklist of, okay, this is your tasks, and we're very open about did we get them done or not. And it's not so much that you're calling somebody out on the carpet. It's just, hey, do you check it off today or did you not check it off today? And if you don't, nobody says, hey, why did you not do that? Whether you did it or didn't do it. Now next week when it comes and they're still lingering there, okay, now you get to, say, did you do it or not do it? So I think it's just having really clear communication, understanding everybody's expectations and what's a win for everybody, and then having, this could be as simple as putting it in your calendar, tasks on your phone. You got to kind of find the system that works for you. It could just be writing it down on a legal pad. Whatever somebody it works with, whatever one you're going to use is the one that I would recommend is going to work for you. Because if you're not going to use something, then it's just not going to work.
Right. Yes. And let's walk through just a real world example, two real world examples. I want you to talk about a time where you had a great, let's say, working relationship with a contractor on a flip or a make ready. So walk us through then, and the second part of that, as you can start building in the back of your mind, and then a time where that went way off the rails. You can go either way. You can go way off the rails first, and then the good relationship. Maybe we start there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about a time where these things weren't in place and what wasn't in place, what went wrong, and kind of what was the result of the what went wrong.
Sure. I can tell you that without a doubt, um, the what went wrong in these scenarios is typically me. If I look at it and I'm super, super honest with myself and everybody else, I'm the thing that went wrong. I can sit here and blame a contractor for not showing up, not meeting deadlines, wasting materials. I can blame them or I can take accountability to that. Okay, what things did I not put in place to make sure that those attributes that contractor is doing is being mitigated? I mean, I had a deal, man, on a house in El Dorado, and I mean, I'm not going to name names, but we had a contractor in there, and the contractor just, I mean, we met and I didn't want to meet. I said, "Hey, I've got this house. I need you to finish it. It's going to be a rental. You know, I want whites and grays, LVP. I don't care. Get it done. Here's the budget." And he's like, "Man, I really need you to meet, walk through this, and tell me exactly what you need done." Reluctantly, I go over there. It was very rushed, and I'm like, "Paint this, finish the walls." Like it was fast. It's 15 minutes in and out. And I'm like, you know, tell me what material, send me a materials list. I'm going to have this all delivered to you. And this is when I need it done by. You know, in my mind, that is a wonderful relationship, right? But for them, they needed more explanation on the details of how do you want this done. Um, very, very specifics. And that's me not understanding what the goals are and what's a win for that person. I happen to go there 2 weeks later, which is another big mistake. You should be going to your flips at least daily if you're new and every other day if you're not new. But I go there literally 2 weeks later, like one room has been painted and there's like LVP that's been starting to put down. I'm like, why are we putting down LVP when we're not done with the painting? So it's just, it wasn't managed well. Again, I could make excuses saying, hey, the contractor should have known better, and I don't know what happened. But ultimately, it's up to me. I didn't manage the project very well. And nor did I set firm timelines with executable steps, right? Okay, week one, the entire house needs to be painted. Week two, so on and so forth. So I didn't set that timeline for those people, right? So, again, that's all on me. Um, again, I think it's just something that you live and learn, right? And, on vice versa, learning from that. Now, if somebody does a flip for me, like we have literally like an 8-page spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet addresses every single room, every task that somebody's going to do in a room. And like we literally, so I have one, our contractors get one. It has the timelines on there, it has the budget for each item on there. A lot of times it will have SKU numbers of which items, because we use the same same SKU number for toilet, like where it's super easy. And timelines next to each task. And we'll go in there and I sign it, they sign it, and we both, like, I duct tape one on the wall and we both sign that one. So everybody knows that comes in that house, here's what's expected, right? It's glaringly open. And they know that if there's a change order, and there will be change orders, here's the process to handle a change order, right? And here's the timeline to expect my response on a change order. So it's just having very, very clear communications with all aspects of that. And the times I've done that, we've come in under budget and it's been less time. Every single time I've been that detailed. Is it more of a hassle up front? Yeah, absolutely. But once you do it a couple times, it becomes very, very easy, especially if you do it with the same contractor. then they know what they're working. Every contractor, I was really afraid that they would really rebel against this and feel like they're being micromanaged. But everyone I've done this with have thanked me for having like that type of clear communication and setting the expectations so they know when they're winning. They need to know when they're winning.
So, yeah, I like that a lot. And so I don't know, Jared, is that spreadsheet, is it like super customized or is it something we could share? I don't know. Is it in a
It's
shareable
pretty,
format at all?
I have it in a Google Drive, but it is pretty customized,
Mhm.
kind of my world. But you
Yeah.
know what? Let me see if I can't make that a little bit generic over the next week, and maybe we'll share that out and just email that out to everybody because it really is a great tool. And I mean, it's literally just plug and play. I mean,
Right.
it's very simple for people to use.
Yep. I like it because it's more detailed than what I've ever used before. So I've used some stuff that's not as detailed for sure and didn't have the timelines on it like you. It was more verbal and verbal always is not. I mean, it's always bad to just do stuff on verbal because nobody ever remembers I mean, if it's
Well,
not in writing, then and I've even had the deals where I've disagreed with somebody, and then we went to a written document, and I went, okay, yeah, I guess I did say that, or I guess I didn't say that, or I guess that wasn't part of the deal. I just thought it was in my head.
yeah,
So Stephen brought up a comment. Sounds like a good idea if an investor had one reliable GC who can manage all the homes and contractors on the investor's behalf. I would say yes, and really want to make sure you have them, probably have a couple, two or three that you've had on different properties to see how they perform because it's easy, like anything else, right? It's easier to get the job than do the job.
right.
And so just make sure, yes, but yeah, of course, 100%, because then you just have weekly meetings with them, right, at your office or at the job site, preferably, but you just
Yeah,
have weekly meetings because, part of what I did with that contractor also was like at least once a month, we would jump in the truck and go drive sites, right? And it wasn't that I was necessarily even checking up because we had a high level of trust at that point because we'd worked long enough together. But it was more of just to kind of see how things are going and even brainstorming when we're walking through the house, like, hey, could we do this instead? Or what do you think about this? He'd ask me my opinion on stuff, and then I would ask questions like, hey, do we have to do it this way? And he was like, yes, we have to do it that way because that's if we buy the same paint color, then it makes it a lot more effective when we go from one house to another. Because like, well, in this house, couldn't we paint it? And he was like, no, we couldn't because we have a plan and it works. He said, do
right.
they? And he looked at me. He says, do the houses sell quickly? I was like, yeah. He goes, until they stop selling quickly, this is the paint color we're using. I was like, that's a good point because I wanted it to be prettier. I thought it would look better with this roof color. And he was like, no, 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 that's not what we do, right? Because it's not cost effective. And he was right, and I was wrong in that. It wasn't cost effective to do each house a different palette and a different. I mean, you can do some variations, but for the most part, same flooring, same paint, same fixtures, same sink, same counters. If you're doing cabinets within reason, same. I mean, more you can, especially as you go to scale, right? The more standardized you become, the faster you can go and the more economical you can start relying on those numbers. Every house, oh, okay, well, here's what I'm gonna spend on cabinets. Here's what I mean, it just becomes a part of your operating system versus guessing or having to have it bid each and every time.
Yeah. And that's
Okay.
why, we went down to having those SKUs on
You're
there.
right.
Literally, somebody could take that sheet into Home Depot because that's no
Mm,
plug for Home Depot. You get it wherever you want to get it. But most of the stuff, that's where we got. So they could literally take that sheet into the Pro Desk at Home Depot and they can start scanning every one of those SKUs on there. And you got there's a good portion of your material list.
right.
But I also want to bring up something there, Matt, that
Mm,
when you were out driving those properties with that partner, you kind of challenged him,
mm,
as you're
mm,
walking these, you kind of challenged him a little bit,
mm,
right? And so it's important, I think, to have the mindset that when you're in partnership with somebody, you got to open, you got to be open to that challenge, right?
this doesn't have any relevance for you and I right now, does it,
Yeah, not
Jared?
any at all.
Not
Not any
any.
at all.
It wasn't last night and this morning that we
No.
were having this exact same
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, exactly. How ironic.
Yeah, yeah. I thought the whole thing was ironic when we were talking about everything today.
It is. It is.
So Jared and I had a discussion last night about hiring
Yep.
and the process of hiring, which is very much in alignment with people and vendors. And hey, so we need a position. We need a loan processor at our company because Charlie's just working the wheels off, and he's like, "Hey, I need some help here." And so we need a loan processor. So we were in a disagreement of how to go about that. And so we probably had about an hour and a half or 2 hour conversation, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Yep.
And we weren't yelling or screaming. We weren't mad. We were just had a difference. Jarrett saw it one way and I saw it the other. And the interesting thing, and I'm just sorry, Jarrett, I'm
No,
just
no.
echoing on what you said. And then but then this morning, what happened when we talked? I'll just let you finish the
I
story.
mean, you know, I had time to think about it. You had time to think about it. We both come together and, super appreciative of
Hmm.
each other's ideas through that. And I think we probably have a better plan now than what we did. That our plan now seems to be probably better
Hmm.
than either of our plans last night,
Right.
you know.
Yep.
So it was just dynamic on how that came about. But that wouldn't have happened if we wouldn't have challenged each other on those decisions and
Right.
been super open to hearing the other person's perspective, even if it, you know, in the moment, we don't agree
Mhm.
with it. You know, Matt may or may not have made me cry, but uh, then I think it's just that openness and understanding, hey, this isn't the end of the world,
Right.
right? Like we're just talking through things, and that pressure, what is it? They say, pressure builds diamonds, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that's you got to have a little bit of that pressure in order to move forward and be open to it and not have the resentment around there with your partner. Because if your partner, you've chosen them for a reason, you
Hmm.
know. So, yep, that's a very ironic and well-timed conversation.
Yes, yes, yes. So, so I think we'll, as we start to wind up today's session, we'll be entertain any questions about any of the stuff. And we didn't necessarily come into this discussion to talk about how great partnerships are. They definitely have their challenges. They're very much like a marriage, very much like a brother and a sister relationship. And I'll let you decide who's the brother and sister in this relationship. But the the that you very much it's a commitment, I'll say it that way, which involves communication and openness and all of those things. And so you have to decide also a person's personality may not be the best fit for partnerships as far as long-term partnerships, but you can still do joint ventures, and joint ventures can be transactional and very it's just this project. So if it makes sense, I find a lot of times in business, entrepreneurs, and we're all real estate entrepreneurs on this call, entrepreneurs have a tendency to be more lone wolf and they think they have to do it alone. And it's because they want it either done right or they want the control and so, you have to weigh that you will always go farther, in my opinion, you will always go farther through either an actual partnership or some type of partnership type relationships because you're always going to have better feedback and better, it's always going to make the thing better if that's what you're true, if the goal is to make the thing the best, that project, that house, that flip, that whatever that is, more perspectives at least are better in the, for decision making. You don't want to overthink it too, right? You don't want to spend 10 days thinking about what ceiling fixture you're going to put up, but, but, you could be nimble in that as well. So Jared, kind of as we've kind of talked about teams, we've talked about strategic partnerships, different vendor relationships you have that I would say would be best to start thinking about as partnerships, right? So again, title, insurance, lending, attorney, tax, accounting. Start thinking of these people as, hey, these need to be in my inner circle, and how do I keep either a regular meeting rhythm with them, or how do I engage with them? Because your attorney can refer flips to. I've had my attorney refer houses to me, right? I've had I don't know my accountant necessarily, but definitely my attorney and some other title people say, hey man, I know you're doing a lot of stuff, and we got this person they need out of this house.
Yeah.
Um, so Jared, kind of what's your closing thoughts here?
Well, I think, I would I would challenge everybody, sit down and just start writing out names. Go through your go through your phone contacts. It's a good place to start. And just start writing the names down that you think you can build whatever kind of team you're wanting to build at the moment. And just start placing them in buckets. Okay. Are
Mhm.
they going to be on your an acquisition team? Are they going to be a referral partner? Are they going to be a contractor, a vendor, somebody that can help you sell properties or refinance the properties? So just start putting people in buckets, right? And then once you have these people in the buckets, find a way that you can strategically communicate easily with them and set up a communication plan. basically you can get a CRM online for super cheap. Um, I mean, really, really cheap. It's really easy. This doesn't need to be robust. I mean, for probably $20 a month, you can get a CRM and put these people in there, set up some communications with them. And that communication could just be a phone call,
Mhm.
I mean, once a month, as that relationship builds, maybe it's more. So I would strongly suggest start there, get in communication with these people, and just whoever you talk to throughout your normal life, figure out which bucket they're going to fall into. And then I think probably the most powerful thing is find out which bucket you fall into for those people, and then go do that for them.
Yeah. No. And I think, Jared, right in line with this is letting them know that they're on your team and what you're trying to accomplish. Like, these are the goals I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
What goals are you trying to accomplish? And is there a way for us to do that together? So obviously, if it's an insurance agent, hey, I'm trying to buy 10 houses this year and I want you to insure them. Can you also help me source, can you source one or two of those for me? Right. Or whatever their goals are, or maybe they need introductions to other flippers or other, I mean, it's almost like BNI. If you're familiar with BNI, it's but you're forming your own group that you're the connector in. And so letting them know your goals, understanding their goals, and then, as we're talking about this, and I have not done this in practice like that, but even maybe meeting once a month or something for lunch, you buy them all lunch and you get them all together so everybody knows who the team is. And I mean, you could really develop that out so again, without having to partner with anybody, but now you have a bunch of partners. You have a bunch of people that have a vested interest in seeing you be successful. And that's really what you want, right? And you want to see them be successful. So
Yep.
yes,
And
had I to do all over again, I would probably listen to some of these calls we're doing and do what we are saying to do.
Yeah. There's a good book here. It's called
Mhm.
I had to look it up. I haven't read it in a while. The 7 Levels of Communication.
Mhm.
7 Levels of Communication. And this book, it talks about just being a connector. But by
Right.
being a connector and helping other people, you're getting those connections as well, and you're going to benefit really, really strongly from that.
Mhm.
So I would highly encourage everybody to go read that book, or if you're like me, Audible.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
does anybody
And
have
and we're working on those reading lessons for you, by the way. That was going to be a gift for your birthday. So we're
good
working on that.
deal? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. 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 Anybody have any questions before we close out today? And And if you do, feel free to unmute and come on or type at the chat. We're good either way. And then I think, Jared, we've missed this the last time or two, but we'll certainly take prayer requests also. We can
Yes.
either pray out today, if you want to pray us out today, Captain Mohab there, or
Yeah.
Captain whatever. But if you want to pray us out today, so if you have any prayer requests, you can feel free to type those in the prayer
Yes.
request. But part of our mission at Kingdom Capital is expanding the kingdom of God, and we want to be very intentional about that. And we're trying to figure out what that means to us and how we're able to do it. So part of the way we do it is in all of our team meetings in the morning, we start with scripture and prayer, and we rotate, like Lee will do it, or Charlie, or Jared, or myself, or our other administrative assistant, Jal, out of the Philippines. We just take turns, and we don't make it super complicated. We just, wherever we're at in the process. So certainly part of that is also closing, or either opening or closing meetings in prayer. So
Yeah. And, with that too, not just now, if anybody ever has prayer requests,
right.
we pray every morning. We would love to add, however we
Mhm.
can pray for you guys into those meetings. We'd love to have that. So
Yep.
you text us, Facebook message us, and however we can get communicated with us.
Yep.
Jamie, we definitely will. Thank you for that. Yes.
And just
Right.
pray for safety because the snow is arriving soon.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. Well, fantastic. We'll pray and then we'll call it a day. So, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us all together on this call. We just thank each and every one of us that has a different set of gifts, that we can find those gifts and be able to bring partnerships and enrichment to each other's lives. Lord, we just pray that you continue to bless us and bless our families and just provide those provisions and be fruitful for our lives and allow us to go be fruitful for other people's lives. Lord, just watch us as we're traveling with the weather coming in. Just keep everybody safe. And we lift up your name in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jared.
Yep.
Everybody have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Hey, Matt, it looks like we got one request here.
Hmm.
We can have a call with Jamie after this. So yeah, anybody wants to have a call after any of the meetings, or we can schedule one, just type your phone number in here and we will definitely make sure we get you called. So
Okay, sweet.